Hello and welcome to the Autism News Network. I'm Dr. Frampton Gwinnett, here with Russ. How are you, Russ?
Oh, hi.
Thank you for joining us again.
Oh, anytime.
Can you take us back, because in a previous episode you had mentioned the S word, being called the S word, and how that impacted you as a child?
Well, again, I saw the video, and to me, when you bleep, it's always been like swearing words, and I don't swear. But yeah, I've been called every name in the book. I mean, from one to the other. I thought of a question that maybe a teacher would explain to me, but I guess it called for God or something, but she ridiculed me, and then the classmates would tease and harass me for the rest of the month.
That must have been a tough way to grow up.
I mean, she was saying that 2 is a prime number, and I asked her, if that's true, then what about, well, I asked why, and said, well, there's no other number that makes 2. And I said, well, then what about 1? She couldn't answer that. I mean, a math teacher, couldn't answer that, so she had to ridicule me.
Mm-hmm. So you feel like the default way people would treat you is just kind of say, oh, he's in the category of not being intelligent,
right? And
we're going to double and triple down on that. And that, were you like kind of categorized as, being less than other people from an early age?
Yeah. And like my classmates know it, and I never really liked to be the popular. It just never appealed to me, but mainly because you have to follow what they have to do. They want.
And you grew up in the 60s, is that right?
60s, yes. Love the 60s and 70s.
So you grew up in the 60s and 70s, and things were much different then. How were they different growing up back then versus maybe how it is for kids growing up these days?
That's really odd, because there's so many groups that you can go to, certain that will help, because there's always a name for this and a name for that. But back then, we didn't know anything. If we walked funny, we'd be called sissies or gay.
Mm-hmm.
That's the political one, but homosexual side.
Mm-hmm.
But we would be called anything. You're wimp, you're a little girl, you're this. But now, well, there are certain groups that you can go to like this autism group. I mean, I can actually go to people who have the same issues as I do.
Mm-hmm.
But back in the 60s, 70s, this was not even thought of.
Yeah, and I think that's the huge difference. And you pointed it out that in the Autism News Network, for example, there's a lot of people in their 20s and 30s who have been able to find treatment programs. They've gotten diagnosed. They found a community. But when you grew up,
there was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Did the teachers or the school principals ever take any steps to try to protect you?
No. Back when I lived in Massachusetts, I had classmates who would try and beat me up. My mom went into his principal's office and say, can you do something to help me? And he actually said, no, this is going to toughen him up. Just let him let him fight for himself. I want you to know, I did have a anger issue. If mom was still alive, she would tell you at home, it was just everything that went to school, I just bring it out at home.
How?
I mean, I would yell, I would start breaking things, I would just frustrating, but I kept it at home. Till one day, someone who I thought just, knocked me, so I went around and started hitting him. And then this person, and half the fights that I had, I won.
So you
and
were.
here I am beating up jocks.
So you, it sounds like got into some fights with your peers.
Yeah.
How old were you when that started happening?
In my teenage years.
Mm-hmm. So you started fighting back when they would pick on you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just building up. It was just that anger.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people who had that, who has autism, probably have that anger. Yet when my mom came back to his office again, he just said to her, you're right. I should have helped when you asked me to.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think changed his mind?
Now that I was fighting, I had really only one friend in the world, and that was me. And when someone beats me or tries to ridicule me, I would just start fighting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would be angry enough, and it was just bursting. It was just getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Do you think at some point they were trying to get a rise out of you?
I don't think teenagers think beyond their nose. They were just, oh great, we get to tease Russ again. We get to beat him up again. He's such a wimp. But this wimp started turning and attacking them.
Yeah. Do you remember the point when you decided that you wanted to start fighting back? Like, was a lot of frustration or anger? Or...
Yeah, it was just building and building.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's I was shy, but it just kept building.
Yeah. At any point, did you start believing all the things they were saying about you?
Yeah, at first, when they called me, I would say homosexual, I got to thinking, well, they must be right, because there's so many people saying that, but then I don't know what homosexuals do. But I believe that just because they said it. And the teachers tell me that I'm S because I'm not as intelligent. I believe that because, hey, she's an authority.
Right.
But
do you remember what age you were when you decided like you weren't going to believe that anymore?
it started, I guess, when I was 11. I started listening to the 50s music. Chuck Berry, Little Richard,
So that was
Fats Dominoes. Here I am listening to these people in the 50s, and Mom tells me she's never heard of these people.
yeah. So was music like a refuge for you?
Yeah. Boom. I know something more than my mom did.
Yeah. What would music do for you?
Well, puts me in this imagination world I live in, and makes it think as though these are my friends. Hi Chuck, I got his album, like Little Richard, make them little chairs and just use my imagination. But yeah, the fact that she did not know about who these people were tells me, yes, I have intelligence.
Okay. That's fantastic.
And then the kids, all my classmates, made fun of me because it was the 70s. Made fun of me because I'm not listening to today's music.
How would they know what type of music you were listening to?
Well, I would. Anytime I was obsessive about something, I would always talk about it.
Okay.
But they thought that's that's mom's music, parents' music, whatever.
Right.
But then I liked it before American Graffiti and Happy Days came out. So now, for a moment, I was like a hero.
Yeah.
Only at that time, I was listening to the Beatles, and then I was put down for that.
Yeah. So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but the word like self-esteem comes to mind.
I didn't have any, except one. And then when the Beatles came in my life, I think that self-esteem came higher, but the fact that I had to put up with my classmates, they anger because of me knowing that I am smart, and the fact that I have this little comfort zone at home. Every time I get by, I think the anger started with that, because I knew I was smart. I wasn't listening to what the teachers were telling me. I wasn't listening to what they were telling me that I'm homosexual. No, I love to be with women. I love,
Right.
I have
So
intelligence, and every time they mention it, it just, that anger started. It started at home, but it started.
So with the Beatles, do you feel like your self-esteem increased because you realized that you were able to appreciate somebody like the Beatles?
Yeah. But again, I didn't know anything about them, even though I got the red and blue albums. I didn't know who Lennon and McCartney was, or Harrison. I asked my mom, who are these people? She didn't know. Then all of a sudden, I got the Beatles' Revolver. All my answers came from that album.
In what way?
Well, Lennon McCartney, John Lennon. I mean, they would say who's singing each song. John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison. Wow.
So
Now I know, and Ringo Starr. Now I know who's their names are.
What was it about the music itself that you liked so much?
It's different. I mean, I grew up with my mom's music, which oddly enough I like now, but at the time, show tunes, crooners, country and western, that just didn't connect with me. But here's these four men who, and I listened to Breaking Out Everline in the Four Seasons, and they all seem to sound the same. All their songs sound the same. I mean, it's just the style the same. The Beatles wrote their songs, and the writing is different. The playing is that each album gets better and better. They're not the same like Frankie Allen, Four Seasons, or the Beach Boys, or the Supremes, or Temptations. No, they've gotten better and better every album. And I wanted to be just like the Beatles, better and better. And it's inspired me. But at the same time, I did not take the bull from school. So, anytime someone is telling me I'm stupid, maybe I should say S word. Maybe at the time was a trigger word. Now, I know I'm not. You can call me that, and I know I'm not. I'm not going to treat you the same way if you do. I mean, I love you, I respect you, but I'm not going to necessarily treat you the same way if you call me stupid. I do have limitations, don't get me wrong, but when I heard that the Beatles, this, that, and the more I learned about them, the more music I bought. I mean, from 1973 to 1979, I had all but one album of the Beatles. That was Let It Be. When I got it for my birthday in 1980 when I got that Let It Be and Wings' Greatest Hits. I was introduced to their solo career. So from July 1980 to December 1980, I got all their albums up until I think Double Fantasy just came out, and I couldn't play the guitar anymore. But
quick
that
question.
really broke.
Yeah, going back, so you dove into the Beatles head first, and that was just like a wonderful time in your life. So 1980, you were about how old?
Yeah, 19.
Okay. So at that point, you were really into the Beatles. You were mourning the death of John Lennon, and you had stopped fighting other people your age?
No, I was still on my 11th, the 12th, high school, last year of high school. It was like everyone was in one chord, and everyone knew that I loved the Beatles. So, but yeah, that was it. One.
Did anybody say anything to you like, "Hey Russ, I'm sorry about John Lennon. I know you loved him."
Yeah.
People were comforting you. Yeah. Okay.
It took something like John Lennon out of my life to make me feel better, actually. And yeah, I did have this anger issue still, and I might have mentioned that I brought it home, and I even told my brother once about I don't ever want to come to Texas. Did I mention that last time? Yeah. Well,
I think we talked about it. Yeah.
Well, once I became a born-again Christian, anger just disappeared. I still read books. I got still Beatle, but I got the Rolling Stones. I mean, I'm boarding out.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to be obsessive about everything I like iPhones and well, my job.
Yeah.
But it had to, something like that had to happen. I didn't wish it.
But it changed you.
Yeah, it changed me a lot. It helped, because I think God wants me the way I am now.
Cool.
And He had to do something.
Yeah. Interesting.
And if it wasn't the Beatles, and I was obsessed about something else, I'm sure God would have tried some way to get me out of it.
So you have become a more optimistic, it sounds like, a happy guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I can actually put someone down and make them say thank you, or make them feel good, because I know bigger words, and I could actually insult people, get my frustrations out, and they don't even know.
So you're much more good-natured now?
Oh yeah. I use my sense of humor, and if something bothers me, I would just choke it off.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get me angry at all. But yeah, I just feel great wherever I go. I don't think it was a chore coming here. I don't think it was my job is work. I just, whatever I do, I make a game out of it.
Yeah, I think you're known now for somebody who's enthusiastic and kind of playful and happy, especially at work.
Oh yeah.
So there's been a definite transformation.
Yeah.
In your life, but man, it was a rough start for you.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure those with autism or any, if you're in a small group, or if you're in a small group and people put you down, I'm sure there is anger issues there, and self-esteem is like nowhere if you let it.
Yeah. So is there anything you say as we close? If
Oh,
somebody
God.
was 13 years old out there today and they're being teased and told that they're, not intelligent and that they're not part of the cool group, and you might think it's because they have autism, like what would you recommend to them? What would you say to them?
Love yourself. Really, that's the actual key is to love yourself.
Well, Russ, thank you for being here, and this has been the Autism News Network, and we thank you to the audience. Please check out our work out at theautismnewsnetwork.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and we've got a little bit of TikTok going on as well. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and we will talk to you next time.